Hello and welcome to JRock's Pop Culture Revolution. This is episode number 29, part two of 50 years of Aerosmith. And as we did in part one of this episode last week, we're going to be talking all about this legendary. Excuse me, folks. Now, legendary is the latest Aerosmith release to come out, was released March 20th, 2026. And what it is a 50th anniversary 3 CD set of the classic debut Aerosmith album. It was originally released in 1973. And of course, this is as I said, a new 3 CD set we get. And excuse me, in part one, we talked primarily about CD1, which basically is the album as it was originally released in 1973. CD2 is a 2024 remastered edition of the album. Now, as we talked in part one, Aerosmith had always been very unhappy with the original mix in 1973, the album. So this 2024 remaster was their attempt to get a better mix. And I think they really did. And we talked about that in part one. And if you listen to the remastered edition, man, it's got a major kick the sound. I mean, this is one remastered thing that you can really hear the difference in the sound quality of the entire album. It just from top to bottom, it is amazing. But now in part two tonight, we're going to continue to talk about legendary, specifically though CD3, which is a unique part of the collection because it features one of the earliest Aerosmith live performances that ever existed. And another interesting thing about the album is the fact that these are live versions of the songs that appeared on the debut album, and it's amazing because like any great live band that you've ever seen or even talking about any legendary band such as Aerosmith and their live performances, oftentimes when you go see the band live, if you're seeing any kind of a quality band, they're not going to play the songs in concert, note for note the way they are in the record. I mean, if you want to do that, go home and play the record. But when I go see a band live, I want to be entertained, if you know what I mean. And on CD3 of Legendary, we get a very amazing one of the earliest live performances of the band. And we're going to talk about what made it so special. So let's get into it, folks. Okay. Legendary is a very special 3 CD 50th anniversary collection of the band's now classic Aerosmith debut album. Came out in 1973. As I said, CD3, which we're talking about tonight, is for the most part is a raw, loose, live, in-your-face performance as a very young Aerosmith. You listen to this raw performance, live performance that we get in CD3, and it is a very young and hungry Aerosmith playing a blues club called Paul's Mall in the band's hometown of Boston, Massachusetts. Now, I say that just because, again, talking about the raw kind of loose sound that we get on this live performance by Aerosmith, you can hear the vibe in the club. You can hear how intimate it was. You can hear that this is not Aerosmith and playing a stadium or something. It is quite an intimate performance. And that has a lot to do with the fact that this was very much indeed a very hungry Aerosmith, very young and really, time in the band's career where they were really kind of still at that stage in their career where do anything to make it. I mean, they hadn't hit the big time yet, folks, and so that's what makes this intimate performance that we get on CD3 of Legendary so special. It's when the band is really kind of raw, in your face. a very loose performance, uh, not very, not at all polished, if you know what I mean. Like, you go see Aerosmith concert even 5 years ago, and the band was well rehearsed. They were, you go see a band live, even like I said 5 years ago, and you get a monster killer like 2.5 hour set. But after a 50-year career, at that point, Aerosmith was, they were delivering the goods still, and they were playing on a much bigger stage than they were 50 years ago when this intimate club performance was happening. So again, let's talk about why this performance on CD3 is so special. That's one of the things I really want to deliver in tonight's episode is like just the raw energy that you get when you're listening to this live performance that's on CD3 of Legendary. It is just so you can feel. I feel like I was in the club that night. I mean, the raw energy that you hear in the performance is just so amazing. It's like I listened to the entire live performance on CD3, and obviously I wasn't there, but man, the energy coming out of the speakers made me feel like I was there that night. That's how raw and loose energy was. But let's talk about it some more because just really kind of scratching the surface here. So CD3, like I said, comes from a radio broadcast of the performance, which originally aired on March 20th, 1973, which oddly enough is the same day Legendary was released on March 20th, 2026. So I think very much the March 20th release date for Legendary, because people may be kind of asking, well, wait a minute, 50th anniversary? Yeah, it's going back 50 years to the exact date of the live performance. Kind of interesting. But man, some fun stuff here. Now, CD3, which is the live performance for the most part, kicks off with a rocket introduction of a very young, hungry Aerosmith, as I said. And now, when I say hungry, I'm talking about it was one of the earliest Aerosmith performances ever. And man, it just it's oh, you just have to hear the energy coming out of the speakers again. The band was very much, at this time in Aerosmith's career, they were very much thought of as the American version of the Rolling Stones. But the performance we get here, we're going to get into this a little more in talking about some of the specific tracks. But on this live performance that we get on CD3 of Legendary, while they were being compared and kind of referred to as the American Rolling Stones, you listen to this live performance, and I tell you, you can really hear the blues influence in Aerosmith's music. And I tell you, when I say the blues, you listen to this live performance, and the sound of Aerosmith in this live performance is much closer to maybe the blues sound of something like John Lee Hooker or even B.B. King. So that's kind of interesting because for the most part, people think of Aerosmith as a hard rock kind of blues-based band, but the live performance here, it's a lot closer to stuff like Chicago blues and even John Lee Hooker. So it's got the blues kind of just leading out of a performance, and you just got to hear it for yourself, folks. So I really urge you to go out and get this Legendary. This is the back cover, as I said last time, and some beautiful, beautiful photos we get inside. But man, go out and get this because again, 3 CD set. It didn't cost me an arm and leg. I think you get it for probably about $24.99, where I got mine on Amazon. So check it out, folks. And so Yeah, it's just some amazing kind of, you really hear the blues influence in Aerosmith's music coming out in this live performance. And I just, man, I just got so, in fact, prepping for tonight's episode, when I was coming home on Friday evening from work, I was listening to this live performance in my car on the way home from work. And I, okay, I'm going to listen to this on the way home from work and kind of just kind of experience what it's like to be listening to this for the very first time. And man, my it was just it was a neat, unique experience that I haven't really had with a lot of live albums. But again, this was more of a just kind of an in your face kind of live type of album where you're just feeding off energy because it's so raw. But this was very much a, a blues influenced kind of live performance and much more of a kind of a blues jam, I should say, than a typical Aerosmith concert. And I think the fact that it's so raw and loose and it's one of the earliest performances, you're really hearing the band kind of still, like we were talking in part one of our episode last week about talking about when Aerosmith was recording the debut album, they were really kind of still finding their sound. Well, I think with this live performance, they were still kind of finding their sound and kind of learning how to perform the songs live, because performing songs live very much different than going in the studio and just recording. In fact, some of these songs, I mean, they sound a lot harder. There's more of a heavier edge to some of them than the studio versions that appeared on the debut album. So that is another thing to kind of keep in mind. Another track from CD3 of Legendary that really shines is the live version of Write Me a Letter. I have to say, I much more prefer the live version of Write Me a Letter on CD3 of Legendary than I do to the studio version on the debut album. And we're going to kind of explain why. And the reason for that is the studio version on the 1973 debut Aerosmith album, the live version is just much more. It's much more raw. It has much more of a kick to it. It's a lot heavier than the studio version. Um, the live version on the Legendary collection is much more of an improvisational song, much more of a conversational piece where Steven Tyler is kind of talking to the audience, about the song. It's got more of a storytelling kind of vibe to the song. I mean, I would kind of almost compare this to go and listen to the original version of "I Want You to Want Me" by Cheap Trick, and then you go and listen to the live version, which is a popular version, the most popular version of the song. And that's very much like this. You listen to the live version off of Budokan of Cheap Trick's "I Want You to Want Me." They sound like almost two completely different, not almost, they two completely different sounding songs. The live version's got much more of a kick, very much like with "Write Me a Letter" on CD3 of Legendary. It's got such a super kick, and it's almost like it's a new song. I don't know, something in the way they perform the song live here. It just gave it so much more of a raw live kind of in your face feel than the studio version. And man, it becomes much more of a kind of song to jam out to. But it's man, just listen to the "Write Me a Letter" off CD3 of Legendary. Go back and listen to the studio version. It almost sounds like completely two different songs. It's just amazing how the song comes to life during the live version. So that's one track I really strongly urge you guys to check out. If you get the Legendary collection and you listen to the live performance, check out that live version of "Write Me a Letter," because man, again, like I was sharing with you guys when we did part one of this episode last week, "Write Me a Letter" was a song that I had never previously heard before recording last week's episode. For the simple fact that I did not have the debut Aerosmith album in my collection. I had stuff like, Toys in the Attic, Rocks, even Draw the Line, some of the later 80s and 90s hit albums. So um, it just was never an album I had in my collection. And come to find out, and listening to some of these songs for the very first time, um, like Write Me a Letter, I was listening to it with fresh ears, when I'm listening to the studio version off the debut album. Oh, wow. Um, it's amazing. I hadn't heard this song on the radio or never heard it before, but I was listening for fresh ears. But again, if I had to compare the studio version of Write Me a Letter to the live version, man, the live version just it kicks the song and gives it some major ass, gives it a major kick, and it is a completely different song, but in a really good way. In fact, what I love about it is it really gives some new life to a song that a lot of people like me, miss the first time around, and I can kind of understand why that is, and if you go back and you listen to the stuff on the debut Aerosmith album, um, again, Aerosmith was very much trying to find their sound. And what ended up as the debut Aerosmith album, you got a cross of hard rock and blues. Oddly enough, the stuff on the debut album, a lot of it had a little more of a heavier edge than you might think, but great songs. But I think Dream On probably and Mama Ken, they're probably got to be my two favorite songs off the debut album. But again, all the other songs kind of had a little more of a blues kind of vibe to it. But Aerosmith was very much finding their sound on the debut album. Now let's get back to CD3, the live performance from Legendary, because that's the main thing I want to talk about today, and just how great. If you're going to get the three CD collection like me, you definitely are going to want to give the live performance on CD3 a listen, because you know why? Again, the fact that it's one of the earliest Aerosmith performances ever, and this comes from a radio broadcast, and it's amazing to hear the band when they were so young and hungry, before they'd even really made it in the music business. They were just kind of getting their start, and you can hear the intimacy of that in this performance. Yeah. With Next up, with track 6, I Ain't Got You is it's one of many highlights for me off of this CD, number 3 of Legendary. It's Aerosmith's cover of Calvin Carter's Ain't Got You, which is shows that Aerosmith was also very much influenced by Chicago blues, as we were saying earlier in this episode. And this rocking blues song starts off a major blues jam in this portion of this kick-ass performance, Again, for the first half of the CD, we're just hearing Aerosmith's original tunes. And then track 6, man, this really takes the performance to the next level, because now they start covering other people's material. Again, when I'm playing this for the first time the other day, when I'm coming home on Friday, I'm like, oh, what is this? I Ain't Got You. I knew it wasn't an Aerosmith song, so when I got home, I had to look up to see who originally did it, and it was this guy, Calvin Carter. But again, it shows you that, okay, while a lot of people will refer to Aerosmith as the American Rolling Stones, they also are influenced by, like I said, the blues, funk. It's got elements of Chicago blues, so a little bit of everything. And so, in listening to this performance and listening to some of these songs they cover by other artists, you kind of also start to pick up on, okay, Aerosmith is very much influenced by the blues, no doubt about it. And I think more than anything, listening to this performance, the way they jammed out on stuff. I mean, a lot of these songs are like just major blues, like a blues jam session, and you'll hear that when you listen to this performance. Okay, next up, the blues jam continues with a funky James Brown cover of Mother Popcorn. Um, that shows Aerosmith was also influenced by funk. James Brown, famous for like living in America, Papa's got a new bag, stuff like that. And and again, it's fun to hear Aerosmith covering these other legendary blues artists, and James Bond had, he was a little bit of funk, a little bit of rock, a little bit of art. James Brown was very he influenced many artists over, throughout his lifetime and throughout his career. Um, and I never heard of his song Mother Popcorn. So I'll tell you guys, another thing I urge you to do, and I will post it on the site when we post the episode that we're recording tonight, because you should also go and listen to the original James Brown version. James Brown, is the original artist, so I hope people will go and check that out, because it is very much a James Brown song, and James Brown just kills it on the original version of his song. But I love the fact that Aerosmith did a James Brown cover. It's something I did not see coming, but Mother Popcorn, I just can't even really describe the song, but it is a major, the way Aerosmith does it during this live performance here, major blues jam, let's just say. And you got to hear it to believe it, folks. Now, let's talk a little more about CD3 of a legendary. Now, Train Kept a Rollin' is a classic Yardbird song, which Aerosmith really made a song all their own. And what I mean by that is, Train Kept a Rollin'. I mean, you can pretty much guess by the title. The way Joe Perry, not just in this performance of the song, when he plays his guitar, it very much sounds like a live freight train coming straight at you. Now, anybody knows, Aerosmith covered this song, which, as I said, is a Yardbirds tune. And interestingly enough, it was such a major hit for Aerosmith that's another song very much like Mama Can and Walk This Way, that Sweet Emotion. These are songs that would all be in Aerosmith's live set list for most of their 50-year career. And if you know anything about the original version that Aerosmith recorded of Train Kept a Rollin', it featured the legendary Jeff Beck doing the guitar parts on the Aerosmith version of a song. So that's something you want to check out too. Go and check out the Aerosmith version of Train Kept a Rollin', featuring the legendary Jeff Beck. I bet you didn't know that. A little kind of fun footnote in talking about 50 years of Aerosmith for anybody that's even a remote Aerosmith fan. I'm a huge Aerosmith fan myself. I followed the band for most of their 50-year career, and so I've had a lot of fun doing this, because we're not just talking about 50 years of Aerosmith, but we're talking about this latest release. It's a reissue of the debut album, but you get a real nice package here, folks. And I love the fact that they didn't just go and reissue it and just put out a single disc set of just the original album as it was originally released. That how boring would that be? Let's celebrate the 50 years. So it's pretty cool that you get two additional CDs in the collection. It helps to really kind of understand what the band was going through at that time, and kind of celebrating what Aerosmith was doing 50 years ago. So it's a real fun collection. I urge people to go out and get it, because I think it'll very much like me. Again, I never had the debut album in my collection, but I got a new appreciation for it myself in getting Legendary. I thought, oh, what's this? Legendary, a 3 CD set, box set from Aerosmith. So it's a great way to package it and get people to check it out, especially people like me that were maybe alive back then, but very, much younger. So maybe we didn't have it in our collection for whatever reason, or we missed it the first time around. and then there's other people maybe that became Aerosmith fans later in life or discover, Aerosmith again. When you're a band that's celebrating a 50-year career, that's 5 decades of fans, folks. So you've got 5 generations of fans either discovering this stuff for the first time or rediscovering it. So that's what it's all about. Talking about 50 years of Aerosmith. And so it just really, really some fun stuff here, folks. Now, CD3 of Legendary ends with a high energy, rebellious version of one of the earliest Aerosmith songs ever. And of course, I'm talking about Mama Kin. Now, that has been one of my all-time favorite Aerosmith songs since I first became an Aerosmith fan. And again, it goes all the way back to the debut album, and it's Aerosmith, and in its most hard rock and blues form, just a great energy. Again, it highlights Steven Tyler's some of his nonsensical lyrics. Mama Kin, not sure what that's really about, but I'm guessing maybe his love for his mother, or just talking about his love for his family, or being tight with the family, but something like that. Read between the lines, but it's all about the high energy, rebellious nature of that song. It's just a great rockin' tune to rock out to. Man, it's been fun talking about Legendary. 50 years of Aerosmith. We've done a two-parter here, so if you missed part one, go check that out first. And this episode is going to be rolling out, folks. This Thursday, which is I believe it's April 30th at 8 a.m. So be there this week when this new episode rolls out. And just to leave you guys with a little something of what's coming up next week, to kind of continue with this 50th anniversary kind of stuff we were talking about tonight, I thought, why not, since 2026 marks the 50th anniversary of one of my all-time favorite classic TV shows. I'm, of course, talking about Laverne and Shirley. So we're going to revisit that mega epic classic TV show from the 1970s, one of my all-time favorites, and we're going to get into it and why it meant so much to me and many other people, in the world at that time, and even in reruns and people still watching the show today. I still catch it in reruns. So we're going to get all into that, folks, next week. I have Jason JRock Houston, been your host for JRock's Pop Culture Revolution, and we do our best every week here to kind of entertain you and educate you on everything you need to know about pop culture. That's what we're here to do, folks. It's been a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.